pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Ken Demers,
Here.
Herm DeCina,
Here.
Anthony DeBona, Gary Lafferty,
Here.
Jonathan Ramsey,
Here.
Robert Vitalik, Mary Ann Rosa,
Here.
Denise Russ. Here. Rachel Ryan. Here.
Public comment. If anyone would wish to speak to us, please stand, come sit at the microphone and state your name and address. Yep. Oh, there you go.
It's good, it's good. Yep, thank you. Catherine Camera, 31 Cottage Place in Oakville. A couple things I wanted to mention. One being that this morning I took a walk down in Oakville. I haven't actually been down on the green in a while. And I noticed that there are shamrocks painted on our sidewalks. And this has definitely been since I was out there in like May and June, and the Shamrock Shuffle took place in August. My question is, who gave anyone permission to paint on our sidewalks the shamrocks? And if no one did, then I do think someone did something wrong. I don't think it's appropriate for anybody to paint on our sidewalks. I mean, chalk and all of that is removable, but this is not removable. So I sent an email to the chief, and I sent an email to the town council's email asking that question, which leads to the next thing, which I know you don't answer any questions, but my next point of interest, and I had at the last meeting as well, is what exactly is happening with that email address? Because when it was established, we were told that we could write to that email address, and if we asked questions, that we would get our answers here. I've noticed that some people get answers and some people don't. I know that, I don't know who's manning it now, but I do know that not every council member gets the email that's sent, which I was under the impression that if someone sent an email there, it would then be forwarded to the individual email account so that everyone here, those that, some people haven't voted for everybody here, but those at least that we have voted for, we would like them to know what it is we're questioning. So it'd be really nice to understand exactly what the town council's email address is for, who monitors it, what happens to those emails. It would be really appreciated to understand that from the perspective of the people in town. And I have also been asking about who organized the seminars that we had in the fall that were about, the first one was Freedom of Information. It was Tom Hennick that came and spoke to us. And the second one was supposed to be Robert's Rules, which was, I would say, 20 minutes of Robert's Rules. The whole beginning of that was just a repeat of FOI. The issue I have with that is I found out that we've paid over $2,000 for the second seminar, and 85% of it was a repeat of the one that we did not pay for in the beginning. So I have been asking who organized those, and I have not been getting an answer, and I would like one. Lastly, I just wanted to, I note that you have on your agenda about the property up on Nova Scotia, and I do wonder if anyone has put anything out there, as I've never seen anything, to the police department itself, the officers, as far as having a location that's pretty far out in the outskirts of town, how that would affect them in their capacity as working and being out on the road. And also, nothing has been mentioned to any residents up in that area at all as to what their feeling would be to have the police department located there. I just think that it would be more appropriate to get a feeling for what the police department thinks of that and what the residents think of that. It will be a major undertaking. It costs us a lot of money, but are you going to have pushback from people after you've already spent, money's already been being spent on studies for this? I would think the very first thing that should have happened was to get a feel from the department and from the residents before spending more of our money on looking into whether or not it would go there. I understand that the town doesn't own any property right now, that might be the only piece, but I also understand that there could be other places that we could purchase that might be more appropriate and may end up saving us money in the long run, who knows? But I just feel like this has not been given enough consideration, and especially with the understanding that when we voted for that for the senior center only. There was never any mention at all of the police department being located there when that was proposed to the residents of this town and when we voted on it. So I just don't think that it's fair to be plowing ahead with this without getting a feel from your residents and from your police department. Thank you.
Thank you. No one else would like to address us? Seeing none, public comment is now closed.
I'll make a motion to approve the regular meeting minutes of December 6th, 2021.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
I abstain. I'll make a motion to approve the special meeting minutes of December 6th, 2021.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Abstentions?
I abstain.
Motion passes. Chair's report. We received a resignation letter from Mary Genovese as an alternate member of the Zoning Board of Appeals. Also, at our last meeting, there was some question about the parties caucusing prior to the meeting, and I just want to read two quick things. One was from the second Freedom of Information Act training and also the Roberts Rules. One of the slides mentions exemptions to meetings defined include, and one of those on that list is caucus of board members of a single political party. And also on the Freedom of Information Act's website, under meeting, it lists certain things that do not include, or that are not included in a meeting. And there it also mentions a caucus of members of a single political party, notwithstanding that such members also constitute a quorum of a public agency. So pretty much that means even if we are majority for the same party, we're able to meet, discuss, and so on and so forth. I believe all of the email addresses, the town email addresses for the town council members, you should have received information on that in your packet. If you have any questions, I believe it includes phone number for IT if you need any help getting that email set up. And that's it for now. Town manager's report.
Good evening, Honorable Chairman and members of the Town Council. Just want to bring you up to date on the COVID caseload for Watertown, which reflects that there were almost 2,000 detection tests with 170 positive cases for the past 2-week period. So we have had an increase. We're keeping an eye on what's going on inside our town. I did review the policy, and we are consistent with the CDC, so I'm recommending we don't make any changes to the policy at this time. Also, I received information from our bonding agent and have provided you with a bonding strategy that addresses some of our current needs as we stand today. It should be a 2-page and then a single-page paperwork. There are copies up here if anybody from the public would like to see it. So on the 2-page unit, it basically looks at our existing annual debt service, and we're in that $7.2 million costs for debt service. If we were to go forward and bond out the $15 million, which is dropping off over the next 2 years, and then consider the additional projects that we have that we've been discussing recently, and that would include almost $11 million for the Board of Education for the projects that we have discussed in the past. Some that are deemed to be a level 3, which is a very high priority for the Board of Education, and then a level 2 project, which is moderately important to them to get done over the next few years. If we took those projects, that leaves us about $4 million, give or take $3.7 million, that we could put into either a paving program or maybe put it towards a highway garage. Just thoughts for conversation. Additionally, the community center, we projected at about $25 million, in the police department, roughly $18 million. If we strategically plan out this type of bonding process over the next 7 to 8 years, we can we can put all those projects in place without any increase to our debt. So these projects are on the horizon. We can discuss them further. We can put them on the agenda so we could actually have more of a discussion. And then it would be the council's prerogative to decide what the priority list was for those bonding projects. Okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome. I also have a couple more items, if you don't mind.
Sorry.
Quickly, just the Munson House, we've started the process of winterizing the Munson House and actually the town hall. Today, we found that the Munson House water line, actually, we're not able to completely turn that water off because of the age. We're looking at something that's probably about 100 years old. So we've certainly got our money's worth on the water line, but it may need to be replaced so that we could actually turn the water off. We are getting some prices to determine whether this will be something that needs to be done immediately or if it's something that we could put off till better weather. And then I wanted to report that in discussions over our bond rating, we were reminded and advised that it would be best practice for the town and the Board of Education to continue to collaborate on budgets regularly. Our bonding agent provided me with an article from S&P Global that points out that municipalities benefit when integrated financial reporting takes place. This is a collaborative effort and not an as of right for the town. So basically what I'm saying there is that the Board of Education is a separate entity from the town. We have no right to make them collaborate with us. What I'd like to do is thank Dr. Villanueva, who has been very open and transparent in collaborating with the town regarding the Board of Education budget. She's identified some things that she'd like to share with the town. And after our discussion, we thought it'd be appropriate just to make sure that the town council is on the same page regarding these identifications. She does have some unanticipated costs associated with outplacements and is working towards mitigating those. Dr. Villanueva, if you'd like to maybe just give a quick overview.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, and to Mr. Ramo and to Ms. Sue Zappone, who I work closely with throughout the entire year, is to make sure that the Board of Education is being as transparent as possible with our budgeting. That is something that's a focus for us and a goal as we continue our journey forward. So each year, special education costs are typically one of our largest expenditures that have I guess, a risk volatility to it because of the unanticipated nature of sometimes the costs that we incur. However, as of now, we're in the month of December. We have not received our large grants from our special education funding. So one of the biggest funds that we received to offset our special education costs is called the Excess Cost Grant. And last year, we received approximately $1.1 million to offset some of those costs. Even with that offset last year, you know, from the appropriation we requested, we were still over. But at this point in time, we have a balance where we believe we put the excess cost towards, and then we have a little bit of the ARP-SR funding that goes towards special education, in addition to a couple of other grants that the state has opened up specific to special ed, ARP-SR IDEA, which is something that we did not know we were going to be eligible for, but came available to us. by putting all of those pieces towards our current unanticipated costs and tightening our belts as we always do, I do think we should be able to land on the right side of up. But the main point here is that I will continue to be in communication with Mr. Ramo and Ms. Sue Zapone as we continue to move forward, so that town council members are not blindsided with any costs that may be coming down the pike. But again, we're trying very hard just to keep everything leveled out and finishing out on the right side of up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's it. Moving on to new business.
We have several appointments to boards and commissions. The first one is I move to reappoint Thomas Durso, 10 Gulfview Drive, Watertown, as a member of the Building Code of Appeals for a term to expire January 31st, 2027.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes.
I move to reappoint Gary Bernier of 33 Moran Street, Oakville, as a representative on the Cablevision Advisory Board for a term to expire June 30th, 2024.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes.
The next, there are 5 appointments to the Commission on Aging. So I'll read them all, and then maybe we could have, I'm reading them as one motion. I move to reappoint Carol Stepanek, 245 Cherry Avenue, Unit U12, Watertown, as a member of the Commission on Aging for a term to expire January 31st, 2024. I move to reappoint Loretta Lambert, 28 Cottage Place, Oakville, Connecticut, as a member of the Commission on Aging for a term to expire January 31st, 2024. I move to reappoint Kathy Goulet, 49 Farmdale Road, Watertown, as a member of the Commission on Aging for a term to expire January 31st, 2024. I move to reappoint Melanie Flaherty, 21 Neal Drive, Watertown, as a member of the Commission on Aging for a term to expire January 31st, 2024. And finally, I move to appoint Deborah DeCina, 80 Parkman Street, Oakville, as a member of the Commission on Aging for a term to expire January 31st, 2024, to fill a vacancy.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Abstain.
Abstentions? One abstention. Motion passes.
Next, there are 3 appointments to the Conservation Commission. The first is to reappoint Craig Palmer, 267 Bryant Road, Watertown, as a regular member of the Conservation Commission for a term to expire January 31st, 2025. I move to reappoint George Tubance, the 3rd, 85 Beach Avenue, Watertown, as a regular member of the Conservation Commission for a term to expire January 31st, 2025. And I move to appoint Edward Norton, 669 Buckingham Street, Oakville, as an alternate member of the Conservation Commission for a term to expire January 31st, 2025.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes.
I make a motion to reappoint Thomas Walsh, 88 Longview Avenue, Watertown, as a constable for a term to expire January 31st, 2024.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes.
I move to reappoint Elizabeth Porter, 71 Cherry Avenue, Watertown, as a member of the Gazebo Maintenance Fund for a term to expire January 31st, 2027.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes.
Next, there are 4 appointments to the Planning and Zoning Commission. I move to reappoint Richard Antonetti, 397 Kimberly Lane, Watertown, as a regular member of the Planning and Zoning Commission for a term to expire January 31st, 2028. I move to reappoint Ken Demers, 312 Oak Drive, Watertown, as a regular member of the Planning and Zoning Commission for a term to expire January 31st, 2028. I move to reappoint Daniel Gelati, 235 Williamson Circle, Oakville, as an alternate member of Planning and Zoning for a term to expire January 31st, 2028. And I move to reappoint Joseph M. Duva, 200 Curtis Lane, Watertown, as an alternate member of the Planning and Zoning Commission for a term to expire January 31st, 2028.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion
I'm
passes.
going to abstain. Not sure why, but.
I move to appoint Carmen Verno, 127 Smith Pond Road, Watertown, as an alternate member of the Police Commission for a term to expire January 31st, 2024, to fill a vacancy created by Tamara Keenman.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any abstention? Sorry, any opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes.
There are two appointments to the Public Building Committee. The first is a motion to reappoint Thomas Walsh, 88 Longview Avenue, Watertown, to the Public Building Committee for a term to expire January 31st, 2025. And I move to reappoint Anthony Ciriello Jr., 849 Bassett Road, Watertown, as a member of the Public Building Committee for a term to expire January 31st, 2025.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Abstention? Motion passes.
I move to reappoint Janelle Wilk, 50 Ice House Road, Oakville, as a Watertown representative on the Torrington Area Health District Board for a term to expire January 31st, 2025.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes.
There are two appointments to the Watertown Housing Authority. The first is a motion to reappoint Daniel DeVito, 106 Pine Ridge Drive, Oakville, as a member of the Watertown Housing Authority for a term to expire January 31st, 2027. The second is to reappoint Carmen Verno, 127 Smith Pond Road, Watertown, as a member of the Watertown Housing Authority for a term to expire January 31st, 2025.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes.
And last but not least, I move to reappoint Kathleen Ramo, 842 Bassett Road, Watertown, as a representative on the Watertown Library Board of Trustees for a term to expire September 2022.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes.
Ready to move on?
Yep.
Item B, under new business. I move to proceed with the Town of Watertown-owned property located on Nova Scotia Hill Road for the purposes of a site assessment of a campus-style community center police station.
Is there a second?
Second.
In your packet, you would have received a handful of different documents with some of the history that kind of led us to where we are now. Some of which includes the minutes of a town council meeting dated March 16th, 2020, which was a presentation of a space needs and site assessment for the Watertown Police Department. They looked at the current location as well as the new proposed location at the time. There's also a space needs assessment for the Watertown Police Department dated February 2020, a site assessment of the Watertown Police Department dated March 2020, space needs assessment for the Watertown Community Center dated June of 2021, and Town of Watertown Ordinance 08-16-16-295, authorizing the acquisition of the 17.85 acre property located on Nova Scotia Hill Road. Mark, would you like to add anything to this?
So I've had many discussions with our economic development coordinator, Mr. Seacrest. Mr. Seacrest, in the past, has made us aware that there are 2, possibly 3 potential other sites for us to consider, or more so that they're up for sale. And one is the 192 acres on Bunker Hill Road, which is up for sale. It's at the corner of Bunker Hill and Straits Turnpike. Because of its sheer size, that gives us possible space. We also have the Sealy property down on Main Street in Oakville, which is under contract, and that would be another potential site if it were to come back up for sale. And then there are some properties up in our industrial park which meet these requirements, but probably would not meet the needs as, as we have talked about in the past. My personal opinion, and this personal opinion is based on my experience as a police officer in town, speaking with our economic development coordinator quite often, is that if we consider this site and we build it in that area, it's going to shift some of our municipal buildings up into that area. That will then shift the thought process for our town to figure out, do we want to develop in this area? Do we want to develop maybe down that 262 Echo Lake corridor? And if we were to find this site to be the acceptable site for these campus-style buildings, it also promotes a better community for us. You're going to have a police department, a community senior center that is located attached to a park. That gives a lot of opportunity, and I don't want to speak for the chief. I'm sure he has very strong opinions as far as community policing, but it really gives us a great opportunity to have that open campus style for our citizens to enjoy that type of area. Again, it's partially my opinion, but it's quite a bit of conversation that I've had with a lot of people. This seems to be an ideal spot for this type of project.
Thank you. Anyone on the town council have any comments or questions? We do have representatives from Park and Rec and the Police Department if there's any kind of specific questions related to why they believe this might be a good location. Would anyone, we'll start at the end. Gary?
Gary Lafferty, you're talking about the 262 corridor? Is that the going from Buckingham Street all the way down to Route 8?
So the property, if I understand, the property we're talking about is on the corner of Buckingham Street and Nova Scotia. It's considered 0 Nova Scotia Hill Road.
Okay, yeah.
My idea of my thought process in making that statement is that I think for the best interest of the town, we want to encourage development down that Echo Lake Road 262 corridor. It'll shift some of our traffic that way. Hopefully we'll end up with more industrial type projects which will generate tax dollars for us. That's the reason why I'm kind of, framing it that way.
All right. I forgot that 262 runs up Buckingham Street. I forgot about
Okay.
that part. Thanks.
Okay.
Denise?
I just, a couple of questions. Looking at the police department, that's quite a bit of expansion. And in the paperwork, it said that they're only proposing to expand for 50 officers, if I read it correctly, the size of the building. But what happens in another, say, 20 years, 25 years, if Watertown really grows? What do we do? Can you hold more than 50 officers in this site?
Chief, would you like to address that?
Hi, good evening. Yes, in conversations with architect Brian Humes, they did a 20-year projection for the population of Watertown, and actually found that the projection for 20 years actually has the population of Watertown decreasing ever so slightly, as it does for many other municipalities across the state of Connecticut. He found it extremely unlikely that in 20 years' time, the staff of the Watertown Police Department would exceed 51 officers, and that the building would still be very viable in 20 years with the square footage proposed.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Then I have one other question regarding the community center for the seniors. If this is going to be one building, is it going to be above the police department, or is it going to be a separate building?
It's
Yeah.
still very preliminary, but my thought would be it's two separate buildings on the same plot of land.
Okay, and then the community center, it would include this, what we have at Falls Avenue now, and Park and Rec?
Yes.
Okay, and I know it's still in the future, but in my mind, are the seniors going to be set apart from the Park and Rec? Because I know it said a gymnasium and pool tables and a reading space and stuff. Is the senior center going to be in a closed area, or is it going to be open and adjacent to everything else going on?
Lisa, would you like to address that? Thank you, Chief.
Lisa Carew, Park and Rec. It has not been put on plans yet, but it was, the needs assessment was to make it all incorporated, so there's all kinds of rooms for all kinds of activities.
But at any point in time, we can close down sections and not be in new sections. Like the large room we had decided to put in three sliding walls, so the room for 200 people can be brought down. And off of that, one of those rooms would have a commercial-style kitchen for fundraising and everything. So at any point in time, okay, we can take it and segregate parts of the building. Not only is Park and Rec being included in this address, okay, social services, okay, the food bank, because they all intertwine, they all work with each other. So having somebody, one or two of the facilities down here in the municipal center and some up there, it would be all inclusive. So not
And
just the
especially
Park
for
and Rec.
staffing and stuff, it would be, the
Well, the
staffing, the offices would be centralized, because there's duplicates. Senior Services uses the administrative assistant and the rec office and stuff. It's like this, the department's like this. There's a lot of overlap.
No, the only reason I'm asking is because where we are now, it's just the seniors.
Right.
And we're on one level. But when you play, I go for bingo and poker, and people talk, and then they're trying to call numbers and cards, excuse me. And if there's anything else going on in that area, they're not going to be able to hear.
Right.
That's the only concern
Right.
I would have.
Hopefully, being a brand-new building, it's going to take into all that into consideration. But it's encompassing all ages. Park and recreation is birth to death, every age in between. That's what we take care of. And that's what's included in this building. It's all ages, so.
And Denise, I just wanted
Thank you.
to add to that, in the space needs assessment for the Park and Rec, they had a lot of different rooms with different purposes.
Yes.
And some of them, you could just tell by the descriptions that are made to be kind of more relaxed, quiet areas versus areas like the gym that could be, you know, a little more movement and more people.
Right.
One of the things to
Working with.
remember right now, too, is the senior center is not just a senior center. I know you have meetings there. A lot of the different groups in town have meetings there. We use it for Park and Rec activities, so it's a community center now.
Right.
It's just certain times during the day, it's strictly the seniors, but it's being used by pretty much, the gamut in the town, so all age groups.
Okay, thank you.
In that needs assessment, if you look closely, there is a separate room for billiards, separate room for card playing, meetings and stuff like that. Because we realize now the current situation is people playing cards in one section over here, they're playing billiards over here, and yes, it could get noisy, and if you add other community functions in there. So if you look at the site assessment, as you have it prepared right now, it specifically has a room for billiards, a room for aerobics, a room for computers, people that use just computers. So we separate that now, and people think. And also I want to make a note on that site assessment, if you look at the table of contents, nowhere was there ever discussed about a pool being put in that building. People keep bringing up a price tag with the pool from what Mr. Hume said at a previous town council meeting. Okay, please look at that site assessment. There was no mention anywhere in that document about the pool. So the inflated prices that we keep talking about, they're just that, inflated, because based on the square footage is approximately the same as police department. So cost should be just about the same. And please note that there is not, in that site assessment, there is not a pool.
Thank you.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. I definitely like the idea of the senior center up on Nova Scotia Hill Road, but I'm curious about this 192 acres at Bunker Hill and Straits Turnpike. Is that directly across the street from Staples, that corner lot?
No, it's
No.
actually located on the same side of the street, but it would be west of that, so going towards Woodbury. There's 192 acres that was slated for a 55 and older community that's been sitting since,
Oh,
I would say, probably.
so it's on the same side of the street as Staples, but before you get to Middlebury Road? It's in that block, on the left.
Right. Across from Conway's Farm Street.
Okay.
A caveat to the Nova Scotia Hill property too, is that we discussed, we've had a problem with traffic at Veterans Park for years. Nova Scotia Hill Road being narrow, needs to be reworked. And part of the plan was to have an entrance through that parcel of land into the park and have it just an exit on Nova Scotia Hill Road. So the in and out traffic that we have, which has been a complaint for years with the residents up there, rightfully so. The road needs to be reworked. Could save the town a lot of money now, making it just a loop instead of in and out. Have entrance through the Nova Scotia Hill property, exit out where we have the current entrance right now. So that was something that has been in the plans all along, trying to reduce the traffic on existing Nova Scotia Hill Road property. It's actually Buckingham, because Buckingham would be the front of the property. That would be the mailing address, Buckingham Street, Nova Scotia. They call it 0 Nova Scotia. It's actually Buckingham. But that is one thing that we had looked at, and Lisa had said for years that we needed to do something with the traffic up there. And this would be a solution to that, having a separate entrance and just an exit out on Nova Scotia Hill Road.
Thank you.
Through the chair, I'd like to comment to fully support the potential for a campus setting for the municipal complex in the Nova Scotia parcel. Putting the buildings there will not take away from the town's tax base or potential tax base. The property's already there.
Can you turn your microphone
I'm sorry.
on?
The police department itself, without a doubt, has been there. It'll be 41 years in April that the current police department has been there. It's outlived its usefulness. It's not the building it was back in 1981. I spent half of my adult life working in that building. It's been remodeled more than once, most recently 2009 when the communications center went in there, the PSAP, the communications center not only for Watertown, all the 911 calls, hooked up with Thomaston, Middlebury. And at that time, when we moved in 81, there was 34 sworn officers on the job. But it's not just the sworn officers. There's now 40, 2 sworn animal control officers, and our communications staff, 11, part-time and full-time. And there's 4 civilians that work in that building. Several years back, a complaint was made to OSHA about the locker room, the bathroom facilities, I believe. At that time, OSHA came in. They made recommendations that the building was out of date. There was problems that were existent. They were corrected with OSHA, and the problems are still there. Anybody who would like to have a guided tour of the building, as was planned by Chief Berniger and Commissioner Antonetti, please do. The locker rooms are, I won't want to work there now. There's a female locker room that was designed for 1 female officer back in the late 70s, early 80s, who since is retired, obviously. Now there's 4 female officers working patrol duty. There's an animal control officer, also female. The building is overcrowded, and I believe in hearing and observing, it's not conducive for good working conditions. And if anybody wants to observe other type complexes, there's one in Madison, being a former summer resident of Westbrook up until recently. As you go down towards Hammonasset, there's a big complex there. Big park in Madison, the police complex, Public Works. It's very desirable, and there's also one in Bethel with the police department there that's very similar to the one that the architects plan here. I'm going to defer anything else regarding these matters to the chief, Lisa Carew, and Mr. Dunstan. Thank you.
Rachel, sorry, you have
Oh,
more
I just,
questions?
yes, I definitely like the idea of putting the two together. I think that's a really good idea to have a police station and the recreational center together, but also knowing about these acres, the 192 acres on Bunker Hill and Straits Turnpike, that seems like a really good location potentially for a police department. So I would just like to state for the record, I'd like to know a little bit more about that.
You have anything else, John? Anything? You want to say anything?
Yeah.
I think the location is ideal. Number one, because we own it. And it'll allow us to go forward with these two projects. If we have to add a lot of money to purchase additional land and have our whole projects redesigned, then we would separate them, because we've already approved the recreation center for Buckingham, and it just seems to me we would be going backward to start looking at new sites. I think we have the property, we have the police department encouraging us to go forward, we have the Park and Rec encouraging us to go forward, and even if we start tomorrow, it's going to take years before two projects reach fruition. And every single meeting or month that goes by that we delay means that the departments are hamstrung and dealing with the situations they're currently under, which I don't think is acceptable.
Yes, Mark? Someone turn your, I think there's a max number of mics. Try to turn it on now. There you go.
Perfect. I just want to point out that the cost to do this study has already been made available to us by the council. You voted on this and already appropriated the money to get the site survey done. So that's already been approved. The 182-acre site is very large, and it is back up for sale. And we have quite a bit of interest, from what I've been told, for somebody to come in and put another housing development. And they're looking to do a 55 and older housing development. So to pass up a location like that could potentially create a lot of tax dollars for us, I don't think it would be in the best interest of the whole town to explore something like that, just for reference. And then, like I said, we've already, put a line item in here for this site survey. We're just looking for your approval to move forward for the architect to look at the property and make sure that it'll fit the buildings as they've been described. There is some discretion on changing the buildings a little bit, as Mr. Hume said when he was here last time. So not that we would add a pool, but if that's something that the townspeople wanted and the site could fit it, obviously we'd want to make a decision like that collectively. The same thing with the police department. If we needed to add on, and there's been talk about maybe putting a fire department substation attached to the police department up in that area. Once we get this site survey, we could kind of see if something, like that would be feasible for our town. So I think it would be in the best interest for the town for you to consider moving this forward, us expending the small amount of money that's left to get this site survey done, and then we can make determinations from there.
Thank you. And I just wanted to add, did you have more questions? Sorry.
Mark, thank you for that. That's really helpful information about somebody's interested in the site. I'm just wondering if you know what happened last time, because I remember when that was on the table for that housing. Was there something about wetlands or some problems with the land, or why they didn't go forward?
They just chose not to do the project at that time. They felt
Okay.
that that 55 and older community was not a viable investment at the time, and they've held on to the property. I don't want to speak too far out of my lane, but from what I understand, the property went back on the market within the last couple months, and the current owner is either had the permits updated so that they could transfer the permits over to the next buyer, or they're in the process of doing that. Obviously, in the town's best interest, it's probably good that if we, if they looked at a 55 and older community. It would, bring in tax dollars, and it wouldn't be stressful on our school system. Or maybe it's a combination thereof, but from what I understand, there's a lot of activity on the property, so hopefully somebody will purchase it and get going on a big project for us.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that I think the proposed location is a great location, having Park and Rec and all those facilities so close to Veterans Park, and even having a driveway leading to the park, additional parking for when we have events at the park instead of using John Trumbull. Hopefully we'll have enough parking at this new site to kind of help out with veterans. It wasn't mentioned here, but a lot of the things that we would need for a police department, backup generators, infrastructure in place for any type of emergencies, having that kind of all in one location with the community center, I think will be very beneficial versus two separate locations. There's going to be a lot of repetition and just a higher cost because all the utilities and infrastructure you would need to do for two buildings on one lot versus two buildings on completely different locations would just add to the cost. Any further comments or discussion from the town council at this time? So all in favor of the motion as presented, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. Thank you. Yep, thank you.
Thank you.
I make a motion to approve an appropriation from the general fund for an amount not to exceed $5,939.84 for a compressor for the fire department.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes.
I move to approve the job description for the senior minibus driver as was presented to us.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I'm not sure if I'm missing part of my package. I didn't get anything on that, and I didn't get anything on the senior mini, I didn't get the senior mini bus.
So the minibus look like this.
Yeah, I didn't look at it all. I'm looking through the whole thing here.
Is there anyone else missing it?
I got it.
You got it?
Oh, not that I recall.
Yep. Yes? Can you turn your mic on?
Pardon?
Turn your mic on.
I have two questions. Under the essential functions, it starts off with depending upon physical capacity. 1, 2, 3, third bullet down. It says assist passengers into and out of the vehicle. Does that mean that the bus driver is going to be getting out of the vehicle, helping people down the stairs, or getting out of the bus, helping them in, or does it mean going to their house and helping them? No. Okay. Well, I just didn't quite understand that.
It means getting them in and out of the bus if they have to use the lift or whatever?
Right.
Okay, so it would make sure that the person going on the bus is securely brought into the vehicle or out of the vehicle. So if
Okay.
somebody's on the lift, making sure that they're adequately harnessed in.
Bundled in, okay. But getting onto the senior bus, they don't get out and help them on or off. Is that their
Well, they can get to
responsibility?
the bottom of the stairs if somebody's because there's the stairs or there's the lift, the power lift on our buses. But they're not going to be bringing groceries to somebody's house or anything like that.
Okay. And then my last one is, under physical and mental effort, it says the person should be able to lift 30 pounds. What's that refer to?
That means it's a standard thing to make sure, it's more and more, you're going to see that in job descriptions, that, so there's, a person can lift, so.
Okay, it's
Kind
not,
of know if there's a pre-existing back injury or something.
okay,
And it's just, it's pretty standard language now on job descriptions.
understood, thank
Yeah.
you.
Any other questions or comments? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I move to approve the resolution authorizing an appropriation from the general fund in the amount of $2,776.92.
Is there a second?
Second.
And just to reiterate, this is dealing with tax refunds.
Yes.
Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes.
And I move to approve the resolution authorizing the tax refunds.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes.
And
And
I believe
motion-
we need a motion to adjourn.
is there a second?
Second.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Have a good night. Merry Christmas,
Merry
happy
Christmas,
holidays.
everybody.